Good evening to one and all present here. I am Chetan Chinchorkar and I will be hosting the first episode of Startup Odyssey. But before going right into the event, I would like to thank you all for being with us today. On behalf of ESL IIT Guwahati, we are delighted to welcome you to the first episode of Startup Odyssey. There would be many questions going on in your mind, like what does Startup Odyssey mean? What is it for? How will it be helpful? And many more questions. But have you ever thought what startups mean? Everyone is talking about startups, acquisitions, acquihires, angel investor, venture capitalists, venture capital firm, and the list goes on. But most importantly, what is entrepreneurship? Well, why don't we ask this to someone who has knowledge of and experience about this kind of stuff? And luckily, we have got the exact person for explaining this and acknowledging us. He is none other than Sir Ganesaraman. He is Vice President and Head at Global Internal Audit 24/7.ai. He has recently submitted his Ph.D. thesis on entrepreneurship at IISc Bangalore. Being passionate about creating positive community impact, he leads 24/7.ai's corporate social responsibility initiatives as a CSR trustee. Before going into right into entrepreneurship, I would like to invite our partner Smith Singhania, founder and CEO of SeedUp, which is one-stop solution of all requirements of startups. SeedUp intends to offer quality services through expert consultation to help entrepreneurs start, run, and grow their business. It acquires to associate with entrepreneurs on the business services requirements and travel the journey as a partner at every stage to ensure the business remains compliant and continually growing. So, without wasting much of your time, I invite Sir Ganesaraman to exemplify and acknowledge us with entrepreneurship.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and it's my pleasure to be with all of you. I will just share my screen. Hope it is. If you once you acknowledge that you can see my screen, then I will take off. And thanks IIT Guwahati team and SeedUp for this opportunity. Hope you are able to see my screen now.
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay. Right. Thank you all for this great opportunity again. And IIT has introduced me on my work credentials, and I would like to also state that I have just submitted my PhD thesis at IISc. So on these two credentials, I will just first spend a couple of minutes and then talk about my organization and my academic affiliation before I jump to the topic. First, about the organization 24/7.ai, where I am value adding. We are into uniting the unique blending of systems of intelligence and systems of engagement. When it comes to systems of intelligence, we have a conversational AI which can predict the intent, and it can completely manage the journey of customer when they are in their customer inquiries. We have systems of engagement. Once again, we are an omni-channel organization. The customers can reach us through any channels, and then we will be able to service them. And then we can integrate with systems of record of any form. So that way, we are in a very unique space, offering the power of AI with the human intervention, HI. So we are in a very unique and hot spot. So what this differentiation has brought us is we are serving 184 enterprise customers, and we are holding 118 patents in the area of customer journey experience. So that's our uniqueness, while we are dealing with billions of transactions with our customers. Going back to my academic affiliation, I'm currently, I've very recently submitted my PhD thesis at Indian Institute of Science on one of the topic which is more relevant at this point in time, and the topic being the tech startup failures in India. I have studied the causal attributes of tech startup failures, besides the life expectancy of it by life cycle stages. And I have also looked at the exits of startups and exits of entrepreneurs. So trying to look at a holistic perspective of what an entrepreneurship is and what an entrepreneur goes through in his journey when he's dealing with a startup. I have worked under the supervision of Professor M.H. Balasubramania at IISc. while Dr. Sitaram is my supervisor at the organization, who happens to be an IISc alumni as well. Without further few minutes on, I will be getting into the agenda. First, I have looked at your the theme, the Odyssey. It really talks about what is an entrepreneurial journey. I think you have just named it. That's what I felt, and it's really great to see that particular name because it's a long journey. It has its own challenges attached to it, and then adventures attached to it. Entrepreneurship is not very different from that, right? So I will be first talking to you and then introducing you the innovation. Subsequently, how it gets into entrepreneurship and what is the vehicle entrepreneurs use currently. We have a good ecosystem available in India. So what is this ecosystem available in India? I will be talking to you about, and I will also try to bring understanding on the difference between a success and a failure of a tech startup. Besides that, how to create a sustainable, a profitable startup. I can give you an idea about the business model canvas where I can make you to think how to take your innovation to a successful entrepreneurial journey. So you have a good toolkit which is available. I will give you an exposure to this in terms of business model canvas. And as the introducer was talking about, Chetan, valuation is all about. Definitely, I have my own reservations about this particular topic. Anyway, we will debate it when we are getting into this particular component. So these are all the 6 different points which I will be covering, finally ending up with the summary. This is what I have for the day. Hope it caters to your requirement. Any feedbacks or comments from anyone on the agenda? If none, I will move ahead. First, let me start with the innovation. So I just thought first I will take the reference of Peter Drucker, who has spoken about the 7 sources of innovation. So while the young minds of IIT Guwahati is talking about solving the various problems, there is nothing other than innovation which comes to all our mind, right? So what are the sources of it? So first we will explore. Starting with unexpected occurrence can really be a source of innovation. All of us will definitely acknowledge how this pandemic has really given a great opportunity for various things. While it has shut some doors, it has opened up many doors. So the unexpected occurrence can be a great source of innovation, including this pandemic. And the incongruities. What do I mean by this? A couple of years back, if somebody asked online exams are possible, this conference is possible online, we would have said no. Now we could see that those things are possible. So what was once thought impossible, we are making it possible. So the innovation is taking place to challenge the status quo and then bring uniqueness. And in terms of processes, if you look at it, the PAN card, to apply for a PAN card and then get a PAN card, it takes months earlier. Now, if you have your Aadhaar, you can get your PAN card in less than 10 minutes. And you can open your bank account with your Aadhaar in less than 10 minutes. So there is a constant endeavor of human beings to improve the process. And then this continuous improvement is really making people to innovate so that there is a value add to the humanity. The industry and market change. I can definitely talk about how the automobile is really getting integrated, how the mobiles are getting enabled with so many things. So it is really adding more and more value to the customers, the end customers, I mean. And slowly, the demography, earlier it was the corporates only has to come and deliver to customers, is slowly changing. Wherever the B2B to B2C is slowly fading away, and then more direct to the customers are taking place. So there is a change in the demography, which is allowing, because of the innovation, there is a change in the demography. And change in perception. I will just start talking about the work from home. Once we thought it is impossible, we are now doing 98+% of the people work from home and less than 2% of the people work from office. Earlier scenario was the other way around, right? So the changes in perception was once again driven by the innovation. So we can definitely cite more examples, and then you guys can come out with more creative ways of solving the societal needs. When it comes to the new knowledge, The way things are getting packaged, the things are getting value added services we get, the new knowledge is emerging day in and day out. So that is where we are seeing the innovation is taking place. So the innovators are the problem hackers. I would say all the young minds of IIT Guwahati are completely into this in terms of the innovation and then trying to grab every opportunity possible in terms of solving the problem. So you are able to establish the feasibility and then the desirability. So how to convert this innovation into an entrepreneurship? What is that missing element? That's what we will look at. Before I jump into entrepreneurship, I just thought I will talk to you about one small story. Here is the story of a conversation. I visited a hotel of my friend. He's a hotelier. He was very proud. One of the boys who was working with him is not cognitively fully developed. I was surprised and I was just listening to him. He called that boy. He put a 5 rupee coin in front of him and a 10 rupee note in front of him, asked him to pick the bigger one. He picked the 5 rupee coin and then left. Then my friend smiled at me and then told, Ganesh, do you see that? What I said? I just acknowledged it and then left. And then the next day I was so curious and I was perplexed. So I visited the hotel when my friend was there, not there. Luckily the boy was there, so I could strike a conversation with him. And I asked him, you seem to be reasonable and you are normal. Why did you, don't you know the difference between 5 and 10, which is bigger? Normal, of course, I would definitely seek your response since it is so many people are there. I'm going to go with the response. The boy said, sir, the day I pick the 10 rupee note, this game will stop. Now, I'm getting paid 20 times every day 5 rupee coin, which is twice my salary. So now, can you guess who's the smarter guy? If it is my friend or the boy whom I was speaking to. So I would like to emphasize here the importance of revenue stream, the need to play the game. The boy knew if he picks the 10 rupee coin, 10 rupee note, the game will stop. So he ensured the continuity of the game and then earned twice the salary through this particular game. A smart boy indeed, right? So the importance of the commercialization, the opportunity to convert things is running in everybody's mind. That's what I mean. Entrepreneurs are the opportunity hackers. They know like what is working, what is demanded in the market. They establish a repeatable and a scalable process so that they can establish the commercial viability. That is what, from the innovation, we should migrate. One of the key things that differentiate an academia from an entrepreneur is how to convert that innovation into a commercially viable, repeatable and scalable business process is going to be the bigger need going forward when we are entering that entrepreneurship. So in this entire process, the approach is non-linear. The mind of an entrepreneur is typically don't go in the typical way of in terms of doing things in a systematic way. Rather, they try to convert that every opportunity when they go out of the box and then they come with the solutions. They organize things in a different way, operate it and assume risk for that particular thing that they are taking into charge. So that is where they establish an enterprise. Now we call that as a startup. So the innovators bringing the commercial viability and convert the opportunity of innovation are the guys who are the entrepreneurs. They keep developing the new product, new processes, new services, which consume definitely time and effort, but they are passionate about it. Once they're with their passion, they keep building their babies known as startup. Any questions so far? Or I will move ahead and we will have the Q&A at the end. Moving on, when the startups get created by entrepreneurs, this entrepreneurship flourishes the economy. The bricolage behavior, assembling things in a unique way by an entrepreneur, improves the GDP of the nation, brings the economic development of the nation, and the per capita income of the country increases. The competitiveness of the nation in terms of job creation, skill creation, and then the regional development take place because of entrepreneurship, because especially the tech entrepreneurship could be delivered from anywhere. So that is where there is a power of technology and entrepreneurship which can really bring this competitiveness and then can grow the economy in a significant way. Moving on, to launch this entrepreneur startup, you need a nice vehicle. That is where the entrepreneurial ecosystem model. Once again, I will talk about the triple helix model proposed by Professor M.H. Balasubramania, and then further he is extending this particular model. The academia is coming out with so much of innovation. Yes, innovation is taking place in the corporates, but not at the rate at which it is happening in an academia. So how industry can grab those innovation ideas and then commercialize quickly is one aspect, and how academia can look forward to the opportunity in terms of pushing it to commercialization. So there is a mutual need here. So that is where the government should facilitate the policies on both the sides so that things can get commercialized quicker so that it can benefit the humanity in a great way. So this triple helix model comes in handy in terms of establishing this specific need of academia and then the industry so that the innovation gets commercialized by entrepreneurs and they can drive their startup successfully. Moving on. The next thing is, yes, we all speak about startups and challenges. So here I will normally put the example of a guy who wants to get married, right? So, or guy or I would put it neutrally, a person wants to get married. So once they want to get married, once they get married, they will have their challenges, some of the challenges at least, right? Definitely. Like this, the startup also has its own challenges. It has its own life cycle. The challenges vary by its life cycle stage. So an entrepreneur should be prepared to handle these challenges. If these challenges are not addressed, the timely addressing of these challenges, we call it as critical incidents, failing to act when action is required and acting when inaction is required. If that happens, the startups can fail. So currently across the globe, close to 90% of the startups are experiencing the failure. And this is definitely the momentum which was getting created is getting lost because of this failure, allowing failure rate. That is where the policy interventions from governments and the industries and then the academia need to get better so that the startups can flourish at a higher successful rate. So that is what should be the future opportunity. How to do that? I will definitely talk about the business model canvas, which can really help you to shape the ideas in a much more significant way. So that's what we will talk about. In my thesis, what I have done is I have looked at the causal attributes of startup failures, besides studying the life expectancy and explored the exit of startups and entrepreneurs and understanding the impact of startup exits on different stakeholders. If you look at it, startups has multiple stakeholders. The co-founder himself is the stakeholder, the investor is a stakeholder, employees, government agencies, and the customers, suppliers. So there are many stakeholders life it gets affected. So failure prevention should be the mode that we should be operating so that more startups become successful. Having spoken about the startup challenges by its life cycle stages, I will also talk about what is life cycle. So there are multiple qualitative definitions, and I chose the model of quantitative definition, once again, defined by Professor Balasubramania. And it talks about a mutually exclusive criteria of the life cycle stage. The customer, the product market fit, establishing the product market fit with the customer testing and then the market identification with no revenue marks the emergence stage. Having established the product market fit, working with the paying customers, establishing the organizational framework, and then working towards the break-even volume, operating with no profit marks the stability stage, and operating with revenue and profits mark the growth stage, where the expansion, the growth across geographies, across regions is quite possible. when the startup is operating at the growth stage. So we have chosen the quantitative or the objective way of measuring the life cycle stage so that our inferences can be more meaningful, so that it benefits the future entrepreneurs. So that's the reason we have chosen this particular life cycle stage. So now, having spoken about startup and its life cycle stage, how a startup is given birth. While I would like to talk to you about three different events, the triangulation of which is giving birth to a startup. So first one being the behavioral characteristics of an entrepreneur, the internal attributes that he's going to play with in a startup, and the external factors. First, let me start with the behavioral characteristics. So the level of confidence, I will first start with the risk-seeking ability. So when a person is risk averse, he will always go for a lower certain gain, whereas entrepreneurs are known for their risk-seeking ability. They go for a higher profitable loss. So this is what is one of the key differentiating aspects that I have looked at it when it comes, which is once again a Nobel Prize winning theory of by Tversky and Kahneman of prospect theory. When the risk-seeking ability is getting exhibited and then they seek more risk and then operate under the risk-seeking zone especially, they are overconfident. The overconfidence, what happens sometimes when they continue to be overconfident and then if they don't exit at the right time, the cost of failure can be higher. So one thing we are also talking about is that can they fail fast? So that's the reason this particular aspect also I have looked into it. And can they make the decisions quickly? So that is where McGrath's real options theory comes handy. It is similar to the options market. Can I have the premium which I pay for the options market? Can the initial investment that an entrepreneur makes, can it be equated to that? That's what she says. Can the decisions be based on the first milestone that they are talking about? And then at the time, can they really take the call to either continue or quit based on their profit zone of operation? So that's what she's coming out with. So while the entrepreneurs overcome their fear of failure by exhibiting higher level of confidence, going and then they are risk seeking and then they are very quick in terms of decision making. The flip side of these characteristics can be costlier when they encounter failures. So that's what I'm trying to caution you. Yes, definitely exhibit these characteristics, but be aware, are we overdoing or are we optimal? So just keep gauging of it. Then moving on to the internal factors and attributes which are under the control of entrepreneurs. And especially since you guys are focusing more on innovation and then coming out with multiple products which can solve the problems of society, I will first talk about the product. So what is the product roadmap? And what is the product market fit, which is there any paying customer who is available, who is ready to fund it? And are we aligning the product quickly to the market requirements with our pivots? Frequent pivots is not a bad thing as long as it gets you a paying customer. Sorry. So in terms of scalability, also scalability of the operations is built into the product that what we are building in terms of technology. So the product focus should be extremely higher with the mind that whose customer problem it is solving, which customer problem it is solving, and the ability of the customer to pay for it. Otherwise, it becomes a passion zone. We need to differentiate the passion zone versus the product which is going to earn profits or at least a self-sustaining mode that it can operate. So the focus on product is extremely important. That's what I would emphasize. And this product needs to be getting marketed at the right price, and there should be an adoption by the customer in terms of how can't they live without this product. So that is how it should be built in. So that is how the marketing effort should be getting in terms of promoting this particular product. The organizations, in terms of defining the roles and responsibility. Typically here I would just caution you, many a times we are friends, we have great ideas and then great alignment in the initial periods. with no specific thoughts about how to exit at a later point in time, we enter into the venture and the conflicts emerge slowly. And especially when kids are young, they don't know how to resolve the conflicts. Forget like, okay, elders also are struggling. That is different, right? So there should be a conflict resolution mechanism between the co-founders. Otherwise, friends should not become foes, right? And similarly, I have seen entrepreneurs who have benefited. Some of them have definitely benefited from the investors, while many of them have experienced a different story in terms of the investors. They were forced into marriages of different partners, co-founders. They don't require. They were forced to exit. They were forced to return the money. They were forced to change the product roadmap. So many unpleasant things happen when the when the investors or when the investor intervention is not at the right level. So the conflict with employees also. Dealing with employees requires a certain amount of skill, right? So when there are young people, they need to really learn the art of managing the human being. And one thing which I would say, many times we get into the mode of, yes, we know whatever is happening without reviewing things objectively. The management review, be it by your mentor or someone who is senior enough to provide you guidance, is pretty important. So my CDO always does it meticulously, Mr. Animesh Jain. He does the review in such a way that we understand the business and then always provide the opportunity for correction and improvement, continuous improvement. So the periodic review is very important. So when it comes to the human resources side, hiring the right people, encouraging them, motivating them, providing them the ESOPs. There are so many things we need to take care when it comes to human beings. So once again, I have seen this by our co-founder, Nax. He takes care of every human being who's working in the organization. So that kind of a passion he has for his people. So the passion beyond product should go into the people, because who are the significant contributors to the organization's success. And in terms of converting all these things, opportunities from the environment, that also requires the external sense is really high with the entrepreneurs. That's what I have figured it out. Having spoken about all those things, the language of numbers, the business language, the business lingo that an entrepreneur should be familiar. Many times I have heard entrepreneurs, yes, I was focusing on my product, I'm so much in love with it. Yes, great. You are doing something what others cannot do. Why can't you also do something what others can do in terms of finance? Right? So learn the fundamentals of it, how to get the money, how you are burning the money, how are you going to get your money, what is my operation expenses, what is my capital expenses. So just get to know about it. So when the coding, the complex coding that you can manage, work on the simple finance. That's what is. I will always talk to my entrepreneur friends so that they are not frightened by numbers. Rather, they get invited by the numbers, and then they can really handle it with ease. So this internal factors needs to be handled very efficiently by the entrepreneurs. And I was also talking to you about the external factors. If you remember, entrepreneurs are always smart in terms of leveraging things. The mentorships, the formal institutions, how to establish and then utilize the academic institutions and then their services efficiently, how to leverage the infrastructure provided by various incubators, the NASCOM, the warehouses and everything. So keeping an eye on all these components is very important when it comes to executing optimally with least cost. So the startup formation happens here. If these formations are not successful, a startup can enter into failure. Before that, we have also looked at the profile of an entrepreneur, the startup profile. So in terms of multiple factors, here I have studied closer to 18 different parameters, 9 plus 9, 18 parameters I have looked at. So when it comes to the various profile analysis, and the first thing I just would like to talk about, how to differentiate a success and a failure. This is one area. There are multiple perspectives. The internal stakeholders have a different view. Entrepreneurs themselves consider if they have met the product requirement, they are very happy about it. Whereas the business says it should be profitable. While in economics, look at it in the form of a returns, and academics say if it shuts down, it's a failure. Whereas I've chosen the definition of Amenba, which talks about cessation of operation, which is there is a bankruptcy which was involved, and the loss of identity. One thing which the introducer was talking about, Chetan was talking about, you're looking for M&As, acquisition, acqui-hirings, everything. But at the same time, please remember there is a loss of identity when all those things happen. So that is where I will just talk about the product market fit and then the need to offer the unique value proposition as we move forward. The planned exits due to an M&A and the forced exit due to the management change. I was talking about the conflicts, right? The conflicts can really breed the management change. We don't know when the human beings become greedy, be it investors or employees or the co-founders, right? It can really cause a forced exit, typical of a divorce, right? So this loss of identity is also another component of a failure that we will try to avoid if we are going to be careful. So in terms of profile, the focus on the customer experience, those startup which is focused on the customer experience has really succeeded in a great way. When it comes to the entrepreneur profile, if they focus on a single startup, then their current startup and come with a good complementary skill set of founders, co-founders, they are able to be successful. They are able to reach the success line pretty quickly. So what is the building blocks for a startup to become successful? We have already spoken about desirability and feasibility. So that's where first I would like to talk about the product market fit. So the revenue is important in terms of establishing the desirability. And in terms of the cost, managing the cost efficiently and delivering the product at the cost that the customers can afford, that talks about the feasibility. And running the business in a sustainable mode, rather than not operating with somebody else's money, that talks about the viability. The sweet spot of all these three, when this gets probably the Venn diagram, that sweet spot, that is where the product market fit gets established so that the organization, the startup, can sustain its performance and then be on its own. I will also talk to you about a couple of examples where the academic guys who have started their startup had taken it to a startup which can withstand the weather and then it is sustained for a few years. No, I'm talking about few years means 10 plus years or 15 plus years or 25 plus years, right? So we will look at it, which are all the startups which have really operated in that specific space. Moving on. So I'm going to introduce you what is known as business model canvas. So this talks about the desirability. Is there a demand for the product, or are we just addressing our passion? The timeliness of the product release is once again important. That's the reason. Do customers want it now? Also, you can add that and annotate. When it comes to the feasibility, can we deliver it? So here we need to look at it instead of what all the things we can deliver it now. And when this desirability and feasibility is there, the economic viability, knowing the revenues and cost is very critical. So is it worth delivering? That's what we are going to be looking at it with the business model canvas. So the product side and the marketing side, the various internal factors that we have spoken about in terms of financial viability finally also gets covered here. In terms of the human resources, the organizational setups, everything gets addressed in this particular model. That's the reason I'm trying to help you to understand this model so that all your ideas, you can definitely have a thinking with this one sheeter that will really help you to understand your thoughts, whether it is feasible, whether it is desirable, whether it is viable. You will be able to estimate that. With this, first I would like to introduce you the business model canvas, the first element, which is the value proposition. So this is one area where the innovation really can take place in numerous ways. It's not doing the same thing, how uniquely it is delivered to the customers. So that is where the value proposition can really help you to get the required outcome that you are looking for. So how an entrepreneur differentiates himself with the value offering that he's giving it to his customer, first we need to figure it out. That is what will decide who is the customer. It will help to identify whether we are trying to offer it to a B2B or a B2C or a B2G now. Government is the big procurement guy from the startups going forward, or at least if not, it has already started, right? So are they ready to pay for it? And what is my cost of establishing this channel, the customer relationship, how to build this channel, what is my cost of acquisition, and what is going to be the channels in which I'm going to deliver to this customer? Will it earn revenue? So this entire thing in terms of the customer segment, the customer relationship, and then the channels to reach the customer will lead to revenue. If we have a paying customer, then we will have a revenue. Otherwise, it is typically a passion. You won't believe, last week I attended one seminar by a Swamiji. He was talking about the cost of acquiring a student and the cost which he is offering, which is once again he is running at a loss. He was talking about. Then I was about to send him this and then train him on the business model canvas, but I just refrained from myself from doing it, and because I don't want to teach a corporate guru, right? So coming to the cost side of it, it is not necessary that the startup should do every activity on its own. Need to identify who are the value adding partner. If you look at the success story of Toyota, you could understand they have established their supplying partners. They are in close proximity with them, so that they work with them. They are part of the ecosystem. They ensure that the suppliers also flourish with them, right? So similarly, most of the startups nowadays have understood the need of it, and then they are working with the key partners. And the key activities and resources need to differentiate. And while you are innovating, you should also differentiate what is the operating cost, what is the capital expenses which is required. The resources and the activities will consume cost. The runway needs to be understood. What is the money that we have, which we can burn, that we need to know. Otherwise, we will be overshooting and then putting ourselves in trouble and burning our fingers. That should not be the case, right? So this leads all these key partners, key activities, key resources. If we optimize it, we will be operating at the lesser cost. So when the revenue is better than the higher than the cost that we are going to operate, we will be operating typically in a profit zone. So that is what you should be looking at it. We should know how to distribute the capex to the pricing strategy and all those things. That is a separate exercise by itself that we will talk about it later, if time permits or if there is another opportunity. So understanding, giving a thought from your thought, giving shape to that thought. What is the value proposition? Who is my customer? And then the customer relationship, the channels of delivery will fix this first element in terms of desirability and feasibility in terms of cost, and finally the economic viability this particular model gives you. That's the reason I'm humbly requesting you, if you have great thoughts, it's very good. Try to validate your thoughts and think it through on all these components, so that you will be you will leave no stones unturned. You will not discover something. Yes, definitely there may be some more challenges, but at least you have given a thought to your thought a good shape. That's what I would rather say. With this business model canvas, you can apply it to any scenario. I have just put a business model canvas for a yoga guru. So you can identify your customers. You can what is the value proposition you do, what is the revenue stream, what is the cost structure, everything that you can really bring it and then validate. Have you thought through it in all the components have you covered? You can really figure it out. And down the line, nowadays we are trying to add a couple of more components: social and environment benefit and social environment cost. What every startup or every enterprise is, whether they are socially positive or negative, that's what we will be. We are also started looking at it. So, having studied this business model canvas, we know the organization should be profitable at the end of the day for it to be self-sustained. First, before I move in, the business model canvas can be done on multiple scenarios. It can be used for strategy, it can be used for multiple co-creation, for dashboarding, and understanding your competitions. And whenever you are thinking about a new idea also, you can make use of it. So whenever you are looking at an opportunity for investing in some startup also, you can use it. When you are going for an M&A or an exit also, you can use it. So it has a great benefit. So try to understand this. There are plenty of material in YouTube. If you want, you can also reach out to me. I can definitely help you. Please WhatsApp me and I can definitely support you whenever my time permits on weekends. So moving on. So before I go to the next one, I just want to, since our introducer was talking about M&As, acquisitions, acquiring everything. One thing just I want you to know about, India is on a race for unicorns. If you look at it, the number of unicorns which has come over the last 4 years is really very high, right? If you look at in the first 5 months, we are in May 2021, right? We have 15 unicorns which has come up in India. And if you look at it, all the 51 unicorns which are in India is distributed across 6 different cities. Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, Bangalore and Chennai. Bangalore leads the race and in terms of the number of unicorns. What is a unicorn? Basically, startup with a valuation of $1 billion. This is a disturbing definition to me. I will also tell you why. India is adding 1,400 startups every year. Almost over the last 4 years, we have seen 1,400 startups. And the number of unicorns is around, say, on an average, it is 10 over the last 4 years. Right? The number of percentage of unicorns is pretty less. That's not my botheration. You look at the unicorns here. What it reveals, most of the unicorns are not profitable. Their revenue is smaller and then their expenses is extremely higher and they are into the loss-making zone. This throws open one question. I will leave it for your thought. Is it the right and sustainable way of operation? In my mind, I am of the view this is not a sustainable model. What happens is, I try to look at some other pocket who can afford it and who can buy me and who can acquire my losses also, not only my product, right? So, can the unicorns, the definition of unicorn I foresee, I find that it's a question of time. Probably in a decade from now, people will start understanding this and profitability should be built in. And my CEO always says every transaction should be profitable, right? The unit economics should play a role. So that is where the unicorn should start thinking on those lines to be profitable. And this qualifier may be required as we move along, maybe a decade from now. So what is required for this? Understanding the finance. Financial prudence is required. Establishing the revenue stream, sustainable revenue stream, understanding the cost, knowing the margins, doing the right pricing. And my CEO PV Kannan once again says cash is the king. If you have the cash which is operationally generated, that is really going to really make the difference. And that is what people should be looking at it. Instead of reaching the unicorn status is not a great thing according to me. Maybe that's my personal perspective. I'm ready for a debate. But only after a decade, people will realize that is my view. So, having you guys spoken about what the investors are looking for, I also thought I should throw some light in terms of what typically an investor look for before they invest their money. Please remember that the investor funds come with the dilution of your equity. So you are down the line. Be prepared in terms of diluting your strategy also. So the large and a growth market they will definitely look for. The growth should be significant. A 25 to 30% growth that they typically look for, and visibility of this market growth, the operating leverage, the profitability. What is that potential profitability? The future it can generate. The valuation is all about the numbers game. At the end of the day, it happens at the head, not in the real books, right? So, and the solid management, the co-founder's skill set, the strength, and the management team's competence is also getting evaluated. And the premium valuation definitely comes from the profitability side, and then the growth, the revenue growth of the organization. So investors also, they are not blind, but they can be, they look at all these components much more seriously before they decide to invest. Having spoken about the valuation and the investment, I would like to introduce one more story of a startup here. So this particular startup kept on acquiring, they kept on adding to their product portfolio. Their roadmap, they augmented it with by acquiring 5 different startups over a period of time. I'm talking about the case of Practo. He is an entrepreneur from NIT Suratkar who had the passion from the third year onwards. He has started working on his startup, did multiple pivots before he reached the product model of Practo, and then came out with a great product and acquired multiple startups to strengthen his delivery. And in this entire process, he always talks about the first point: focus. I focused only on my product. Investors were running around him. His claim is he has not even sent one single email to his investor asking for money. Rather, the investors came back and they have invested their money with him. So that is where like really helped him at a later point in time. So do not focus on funds. If you run behind funds, you will be running behind investors. You will be missing out the product. That was his favorite statement. I would strongly encourage you the product market fit that you need to establish. If you can do it with the business model canvas, that can really give you the edge. And over a period, the humanity will survive for a long time, and you will all be surviving for a long time. Don't expect to build an empire in a day or in a year or two. Rather, you take a decade and then establish it. So that's what I just thought. I will leave you with a quick summary in terms of you guys are coming out with so much of innovation, solving a problem, improving humanity, nurturing the ideas, and then convert those opportunities. Ideation, take it through the implementation, not only the ideation. See the light at the end of the tunnel with the implementation. That will give you immense satisfaction, and monetize that idea. That's so important. Talk the business language, understand it, and be destined for success. And then please understand the passion and business are two different components. Right? When you are an entrepreneur, you are a business guy. When you are passionate about something, keep that different, so that passion and business can be differentiated. Once again, here I would like to end similar to Practo. I just wanted to talk about Zoho, another IIT product who has built an empire of real unicorn, which is completely bootstrapped and profitable, which is really coming out with so many unique products which can benefit the humanity. Right? With this session, I will leave it for Q&A. And normally I will talk about a personal excellent story, but since we are running short of time, I will open it for the Q&A.
Now I invite Sumit Singhania, founder and CEO of SeedUp.
Yeah. Thank you, Chetan. I think Ganesh, can you put up the slide which we had included for SeedUp? Yeah, that would be helpful to explain.
1 second. Hope you are able to see the slide.
Yeah, guys. So, guys, SeedUp. Let me just talk to you all about SeedUp for a couple of minutes. So SeedUp was designed with a vision to kind of help entrepreneurs achieve their dreams and goals. I mean, we know for a fact that entrepreneurship is a very growing strongly growing trend in the Indian ecosystem. I mean, uh, uh, today more and more number of people are opting for entrepreneurship, given the kind of ecosystem which is coming in place. I mean, access to capital, access to ideas, finding team members, winning team members. So all kind of resources are now kind of getting strengthened day by day, which is prompting and encouraging a lot of entrepreneurs to come out and really pursue their dream or the idea to achieve what they wish to achieve in their career. So with that perspective, we built SeedUp. SeedUp is a platform which is specifically designed to service the entrepreneurship committee. We are targeting startup entrepreneurs and early stage entrepreneurs who basically kind of are on the verge of starting a business or already have started a business. So we have aggregated a lot of these services, which is required by an entrepreneur right from ideation stage to the maturity stage. So the way we look at it is that entrepreneur goes through several stages before he actually kind of is able to establish a mature business. So he passes through the ideation stage, which is the first stage where he is working on the idea. He is an idea and working on the idea in terms of validation, scalability, viability, all the stuff, right? So we help entrepreneurs connect with mentors and industry experts, who basically help them validate the idea and take more confident steps around that, right? From the ideation stage, to the startup stage where an entrepreneur is looking to really start the business, right? So there we help them in terms of getting their company registered, getting their relevant licenses and registrations in terms of GST or trade licenses or PF or all the stuff, right? We help them get their trademark done. We help them raise seed funds. Most of the times, startups will have ideas and team, but sometimes they don't have funds, right? So we help them raise funds through investors in terms of seed funds, right? At that stage. And once you are ready with all your stuff, once you've completed all the process in terms of registering your company and getting all the necessary licenses and your trademark and stuff, you basically go live with your product, you go live with your business. That's when you start acquiring customers, you start generating revenues, you start expensing, right? You start building your team. So with that particular kind of in that particular stage, once you go live with your business, a whole host of services are required to basically manage a business, in terms of managing your books of accounts, managing your compliances in terms of GST filing and TDS filing, right? In terms of raising more capital, growth capital through angels and VCs, right? So there, we basically require a lot of support in terms of preparing a pitch deck, preparing your business plan, preparing your financial projections and valuations, and then licensing with VCs and angels to close the fund, right? We also have partnered with a lot of product development companies who help you build your platform, your website or your mobile application, help you with your digital marketing and stuff. So we basically aggregate all those services on our platform. So this remains the go-to platform for all entrepreneurs to seek any kind of services, around their business, around entrepreneurship. So that's what was envisioned for SeedUp. We have been live for almost 6 months now, and in the last 6 months, we have delivered more than 300 assignments across all the category of services, be it registering your company or starting up your company or starting up your business, to helping startups raise funds, helping them get their trademark done and patents done, right? A lot of services on the taxation front in terms of managing their annual compliances and taxation, right? So lot of services have been delivered in the last 6 months. So that's what SeedUp is, for all entrepreneurs to come and associate with us, to come and engage with us, and help them, really travel the journey of entrepreneurship from ideation stage till maturity stage. So so that's what SeedUp is. So if anybody has any questions around what we do or what SeedUp is all about, I'll be happy to take it. Otherwise, if you have any questions for Ganesh, I mean, we can take it up and Ganesh can respond on that.
Yes, thank you, sir. Now we are open for Q&A session, and I will read out the questions for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first question goes like this: How do unit economics work, and how to make a good monopoly or your competition?
The first portion of it in terms of unit economics. Uh, this is the fundamental thing is trying to measure it in terms of unit economics, be it cost or revenue. What is my typically what a good tech startup looks at it? What is the revenue per employee? So, what is the cost per employee? So, in terms of cost, also multiple things that we can do in terms of understanding. So, what is the profit per employee? So, we can arrive at the unit economics. In my manufacturing days, my MD, Dr. Manohar, will always, we have introduced the metric called unit per unit scrap. So, the number of units which we have manufactured and then the total scrap generated, from there we used to arrive at what is the per unit scrap which is getting generated. The moment we have started looking at that metric, by driving various improvement projects, we have identified 10 to 12 different projects. The moment we executed it, the benefits it has accrued was phenomenal. So we were able to see a great improvement in our operating profit. So if we could establish the unit economics in terms of what is that you are looking to control, establishing the metric around it, and then measuring it without getting tired about it, keep measuring it, and then putting actions towards improvement can really help you to achieve the unit economics, whatever you are aiming for. It is applicable to any unit economic metrics that you are talking about. And the second question, can you repeat, Chetan?
Yes, sir. Second question is how to make a good monopoly over your competition.
So if you're going to be a monopoly, you don't have a competition first. You are in a monopolistic competition. If you're going to be an economics student, you will understand that, right? So there are perfect competition. There is monopoly doesn't have a competition. So typically, rather I will put it. So that is where if you look at carefully observe the business model canvas, the value offering is very important, right? The value proposition, what uniqueness that you are bringing to the table that can fetch the required differentiation to you, be it in the form of a profit, be it in the form of your margins, right? So the value differentiation, it can be otherwise if you're going to operate in the perfectly competitive market, you are going to be the price taker, you are not going to be a price maker, right? So if you have to be a price maker, then you should be interested in offering the unique proposition, the value proposition, which is required by the market, and they're willing to pay for it. So identifying the customer relationship channel and then delivering it at the channel is very important, right? So the desirability side, you should be addressing it if you want to operate, and then the value proposition you should attack if you are going to reach the level of monopoly. Can it be reached? Yes, it can be reached, but at the same time, it is a tremendous effort, and at least a oligopoly state, if you could reach, it is well and good.
That was a remarkable answer, sir. And we go to next question. Here we are. What metrics for growth should a startup set?
Um, One thing is the customer traction. That's the first thing I would rather say. The Are your customers interested in using your product? Are they willing to pay for it? Otherwise, you will be doing a lot of charitable activities, right? So if you're in a business, you are not doing charity, right? So while you are managing the business, definitely focus on getting the profits. Are you at least breaking even in terms of the operating cost? Are you crossing it? Your customer is paying, covering it. So your cost should be borne by the customer who is availing the service. You are not giving it for free. Who doesn't want, who should not be availing it for free, and you should not be willing to provide it for free. It is okay at the POC stage, but not beyond the POC stage. A free POC is okay, but not a. You can't afford to give a lifetime product free and then like you running the loss, you earning money for his product usage, right? Rather, let them pay. There is nothing wrong in it.
That was an incredible answer. And TP Infotainment asks, Sir, I have a lot of ideas, but I am not aware of how to execute and where to start.
Absolutely. I thought I would give you a toolkit today. So go and then play with the business model canvas, put your ideas, and then find out the partner. See, the thing is, that's what I always say. A co-founding team, founding team is very, very important. You need not have to have all the skill set. You can be a great tech geek who can solve the problem, but you need a good marketing guy, you need a good execution guy, right? So finding the right partner and then finding the right partnership also is very important. And then put together who's going to be I'm talking about business partnership. Please don't talk about any other partnership, okay? So Ganesh has told to find my partner, so I will find my partner. Please don't go and then tell your parents and then put me in trouble, right? So it is going to be identifying the key partners for your business idea success is also part of the game. So finding the right co-founders, establishing the right mechanisms with them, and having the right relationship and open relationship in terms of if there are issues, yes, there are issues. Let us address the issue rather than attacking the people, right? So those things are very important. So you have the toolkit which is in the form of a business model canvas. Please leverage it and see that idea is commercially viable before you are going to put it. So before you burn the money, just think through the entire cycle, address the desirability component, address the feasibility component, establish the viability, and then go for it.
Fantastic. We have one more question. Trilosan Boro asks, Sir, how to find a market gap so that a startup could design its product?
Absolutely. That's what the entrepreneurs I have always seen. They are the street smart guys. They know. I always quote this famous example, right? Like, okay, two friends went to an island from a chapel manufacturing company. One guy sends a reply saying that in the entire island nobody uses chapels. There is no opportunity. Like, okay, let us go back. The other guy says they interacted. Their interaction with the management was separate. So he says, here there is no one who is using a chapel. So please send me a shipload of chapels. I will sell it here. How you see? Grab the opportunities, convert it. The opportunity is all about conversion, right? It is not about identifying it and then just being quiet about it. Rather, how to convert it, and then the hacker of opportunity beyond desirability and feasibility, and then making it viable is an entrepreneur. So always, I would say, entrepreneurs are the opportunity hackers. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, definitely you guys are in IIT Guwahati. You are already smart, right? So going beyond and then understanding the market requirement is important. Definitely, like, okay, going beyond the sitting with the screen is definitely is a good thing. Develop a good product, but for which you need to understand the market. I still remember Practo CEO saying he used to go and then sit in the clinic. He will identify what the doctor does, how he does. He has provided his product free for 1 month. After 1 month, he says, this trial version is over. Now, if you want, you have to pay for it. So, the doctor who has got used to that product, like, okay, for the 1 month, who has seen the benefit, he is forced to buy that. So, he has established that there is an opportunity was there. He has also created the need, and then he has converted that into a revenue opportunity by getting his revenue flow in terms of whatever is the continuous flow. If he has sat at his seat and then keep on generating code, you don't have converted that opportunity. Rather, investing time, understanding the customer requirement, converting great features into the product, and then monetizing it. Never miss the opportunity to monetize it. Don't do anything for free. Your services cannot go free. At least you should cover your cost. Your parents cannot be supporting you for your lifetime unless otherwise they are billionaires or whatever it is, right? So that you can support others. You generate more entrepreneurs if you are going to be looking forward to support. So I would say opportunity identification, opportunity conversion. Read the Shane Venkatraman's favorite paper, Opportunity Conversion. Fantastic insights you will get. And in terms of causation and effectuation, another book by Dr. Saraswati. These are all really a great resource to understand the entrepreneurship field. And play with that. You guys are all great geeks at the end of the day, having cracked the IIT. So definitely we'll be able to crack this also successfully.
Yeah, that was spectacular. Here, Rajesh asked, how can we predict the revenue before startup?
Okay, this is definitely a good question. So you should see, like, okay, when we are trying to look at it, how can we predict? You should know how to price your product, right? So whenever, what is the value currently, like, okay, what is the value that you are trying to differentiate? For that value differentiation, when you're talking about value, then you have already identified a stated need already there, and you are trying to build on the features which can really differentiate. And there will be some price which is price point, there is going to be some price point references going to be available. Even you can start with that. You may not be able to identify the right price point which will really determine your revenue at the initial stages. As you progress, what is going to be your cost and then what is going to be your, that's the reason. The key resources and then the key activities are the two things which I was talking to you about in terms of the feasibility side in the business model canvas. If you are going to understand your capex and opex and over how many units that you are going to recover, that capex can be divided by that. Your opex per unit, the per unit economics of the opex, and how much, how much you are going to amortize, how you are going to amortize your capex, and what is the value that you are, or the cost that you are paying for your partners. All these three put together will decide your cost, and what is the margin that you want to add will decide your pricing, which will decide your revenue. That's the reason when you work on the business model canvas, you will at least start an understanding, am I going to break even? Or when will I break even? Right? Currently, most of the startups, whatever the so-called unicorns, are operating without knowing when they will break even. That's the one thing which I am not comfortable with. Probably maybe a traditional mindset you can call, but at the same time, that is how I was trained by my predecessors. I have started my career with Lucas TVS, one of the traditionally operated company. Even close to 100 plus years, they are successful wherever they are operating. Right? So they know the business because they don't compromise on the fundamentals. So when we don't compromise on the fundamentals, we are going to be successful. So the revenue gets decided by pricing, by your plus margin. Initial days you can forego your margin. I wouldn't say that, but you can take a call to grab the business. You can definitely take that particular call, and but recover your cost. Do not compromise on the cost front. Is my humble advice. Yeah.
We have one more interesting question. How do I find the right co-founder? And is a co-founder necessary at all?
This is a good question, right? So I have seen if there is a single startup, a single co-founder startup. There is an advantage. You will be able to take decisions. I would leave you with the pros and cons of it. Right? You will be able to take your decisions quickly. You didn't have to convince somebody, and you are on your own. But when there is a risk also, you are on your own. Please understand that. When it comes to the skill set wise also, unless you leverage all the service providers and everything, it's going to be a limited game. Rather, when there is a co-founder and then there is a synergy amongst them, the complementary skill set amongst them, and then they can leverage each other. I've seen co-founders, the combination working fantastically. I've seen co-founders combination who don't want to see each other for their lifetime. So it all depends on how what is the partners, the key partners question. What skill set you miss? If you have the required skill set which can be purchased, and you are happy with that, and at the end of the day you are happy with the whatever the margins that you are going to make is sufficient, you feel, then you can go all alone. But if you feel that you lack certain skill set, you don't have the customer relationship, or you don't have the customer managing the customer operationalizing stuff, or you don't have the financial skill set, you are only a tech geek and then going to manage your laptop, then you need a partner who can manage your business. So put where is the gap and then decide, rather than whether you need a co-founder or not. Depends on the skill gap, what is there, what your business model canvas throws out, right? So I will leave it at that.
That was a wonderful answer. Next question goes like this. Someone asked, should I go for further education like master's degree or MBA before going for entrepreneurship?
In my view, okay, the MBA definitely has its own advantage. Definitely, if you want to sit in a corner room and take decisions without knowing what is reality, it really helps. But rather, if you are definitely interested in understanding the business, get into a organization, understand their business cycles. The exposure to a corporate life or a starting on your own also provides you an understanding of what is business, and with experience get into an MBA course, without which many a times I've seen people who are struggling who have gone to a direct MBA. But if they have understood the business and then have done their MBA, their ability to understand the business requirement is far better than a fresher getting into it and then understanding things theoretically.
That was fantastic. Again, someone asked, how do social startups analyze their profit?
Okay, in a social startup, typically the profitability is not a concern. Rather, breaking the break even in terms of the cost is going to be the really a good thing. So that also, my co-founder always say, if we are evaluating an NGO, uh, co-founder from my organization, he always say their administrative cost should not be higher. If you look at it, typically administrative cost greater than 10% is a strict no. That means they are getting into spending the money in unwanted areas, irrespective of the cost that they have, uh, that they were originally destined for. So, administrative cost of the NGO, if you are going to analyze, if you are, there is no profit and loss for a social NGO typically, but their administrative cost should be under control. And that is the one thing. There are some people, there are some fancy NGOs are also coming up nowadays who operate with a 30% of the administrative cost. Okay, they can come for an inauguration in their the newly bought car, which is a luxury car, rather I would put it that way. So that is not a social NGO. If you are a social NGO, the benefit, the money should benefit once again the society. Here also, once again, you can put a unit economics. What is the cost, the unit number of people who are benefited? Is it getting optimal? Is it benefiting the number of people who should have benefited if the cost was, you can do a cost comparison when it is a unit economics cost here, and then see the comparison. I would say any administrative cost in an NGO, if it is less than 10%, is relatively good. If it can be further down, it is very good. But anything greater than that is definitely a cause of concern. So social NGOs should not be looking at the uh, profit margins. Rather, they have to, we have to look at their administrative costs. That's my view.
That was very informative, sir. Here, Mahesh asked, do startups have a chance to boom, especially in this COVID-19 pandemic situation?
Yes, definitely, it is a very, very tough situation. During the first wave, many a times people were not prepared for it, and the first wave has really caused many startups to optimize their cost in a probably they use their. I would also say that they have used this as an opportunity to optimize the cost. There are twin elements to it. So COVID also has created a plenty of opportunities. That's what I will say. The AI space has really growing, and then now the customer service can be delivered in a more unique and creative way That's what people are also figuring out. It has opened up more opportunities. Yes, in some sectors, definitely, the traditionally the gig economy, especially the travel industry, has really taken a hit, and those startups which were in that space has taken a hit. Why? Pharma related startups, the pharmaceutical industry related startups have really flourished. The customer experience, the customer remote customer experiences, wherever it is possible. So those startups have really succeeded very well. So there are what area that you are. It is not about the startup, which segment, which problem that you are solving for the customer problem that you are solving. That is going to decide whether that startup will withstand the weather or not.
We have one last but a unique question. Uh, TP Infotainment asks, can idea be stolen like Facebook?
I've seen that there are people, the co-founders, who have exited their startup because they were the idea creators, they were the product creators, and that is where the co-founder relationship plays a great role. Yes, it can be stolen, and the protection is only working through that relationship, managing that relationship successfully. Ideas are stolen. Yes, but there can be protective mechanism. But once you activate the protection mechanism, it's the trust factor goes off. Right, that is where the value driven startups, that's what I was talking about. The greed doesn't, the greed component is taken off. When the greed is goes off, when you're operating with the co-founder who is having the value system as that of you, it is difficult to gauge. But once evaluate, there is a Tirukural in Tamil, so a couplet which is given by a great poet. Theran Telivum, Telindan Kan Ayuravum, Tira Irbaitar. Meaning, you should choose your partner, the co founder, very wisely. Before selecting him, you should be sure about his selection. Having selected him and then keep doubting him is not at all, you will not be happy about it. So, you should be extremely careful about the selection. Probably give it a time, try, take the right feedbacks, evaluate. Yes, things can go wrong, but at least you can be at least happy about you have done the diligence.
That was amazing, sir. As we don't have any question, we end the Q&A session. Thank you, sir, for joining us today and enlightening us.
And hope it was useful to all of you guys, and you all benefited to some extent at least. And any opportunity, I'm ready to support you with any other sessions, and wish you all the very best. You can reach out to me, and definitely on the weekends I can definitely support you if you have any questions to clarify. Wish you all the very best.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Thank
And
you.
I would kindly appreciate the contributions of all the people who have worked hard enough to make this day a success. We would not be able to achieve it without everyone's sheer dedication and support. But this is not the end. Stay tuned for the upcoming episode at June 5, 5 p.m.